There you go. You all heard that. Just in case there was any doubt. So we'll. Hello, everyone. Great to see you coming live there. Some familiar and some new names. Some of you were on with me last night as we did an eau de vie tasting. I hope none of you missed me for the sherry tasting last week. We're just going to give it a minute as normal while we get warmed up. So I'm really looking forward to introducing Leonardo in the tasting. But as I say, we'll just give it a few seconds to make sure everyone's settled in. So yeah, there's no football on tonight, so that won't be affecting things.
Yeah.
Unless everyone wants to tune into the Friends reunion, or are you recording that? But I don't know.
Is that tonight?
That's now, yeah.
Oh.
I've no interest in it, but it seems that everyone in my social circle does because I'm of that age. So there's 2 more people joined, and if no one joins in the next 30 seconds, we'll formally get underway. So thank you everyone for your patience. Jared Kelly says, "You are better than Friends." Jared, that means the world.
Thanks, Jared.
I mean, I feel the same way. Doing these virtual tastings during lockdown has made up for the fact that I have no friends. So. So I think that looks good. There's no one coming in from the waiting room, so we'll get going. So first off, folks, thank you to everyone for buying a pack and joining us. It's really great to see so many people interested. These ones, when we diverge from doing whiskey tastings, have quickly become my favorite. I used to dread doing them because they're putting you out of your comfort zone, and now I'm like, oh, this is exciting. We're going to learn something new. So yeah, I'm really excited to have Leonardo on. Of course, Madeira is most famous for being the birthplace of Cristiano Ronaldo, but the other thing it's famous for is its fortified wines. So Colin and Katarina are here with me, the wine specialists from the Celtic whiskey shop Wines in the Green, to kind of make up for my many shortcomings. And Leonardo is joining us from Madeira, direct from the source. It's a long way away, Leonardo, but I believe that the time zone is the same. It's 8 o'clock there as well, is it?
8 o'clock, sharp 8 o'clock, or just a few minutes over. Yes.
Marvelous. So tell us a bit about yourself. How did you, what's brought you to this moment working for Barbeito and about to present this tasting before we get into the brand itself?
Well, I worked for the family for the last 25 years. I started in a wine shop in town, and then I moved here over 10 years. So what I do basically here is really into bookings, tastings all day long, and preparing technical sheets, and somehow giving a hand to Ricardo in the tastings. When he does the blends, of course, he let me always try and giving my opinion to him.
Oh, marvelous.
Yes?
Sorry, go on.
Basically what I do. So we do, as you may see on the screen, we have our winery. We have what we will be trying today, the 6 wines, and background is our winery. Is real. Is that pitch is really. And we do tours as well at the winery. So normally an hour and a half. Yes, and that's what I do every day.
Marvelous. And that's this picture is the lineup, the order we're going to do them in as well, just so that everyone can get them all lined up. So we're going to be starting with the. Do you want to talk us through the lineup before we taste the first one?
Sure. So we will start with Single Harvest 2008. That is 100% Tintanagar. And with Tintanagar, we do produce the 4 types. This one is medium dry. Then we have Bastardo. Bastardo is also a red variety, very small quantities on the island. We are doing, I would say, 3 up to 5,000 kilos a year, which is almost nothing. In fact, it was extincted on the island, but we started with this grape in 2004. We do have amazing wines, but as the name itself says, Bastardo is not so easy to work with. That's why they call it Bastardo. Then we will go for a 10-year-old Verdelu. Verdelu is a white variety. In fact, the Bastardo and the 10-year-old, the Verdelu, are about the same age. That's why we call it Reserva Velha, old reserve. Then going, the first three are medium dry. Then we go for a Boal, 10 years. It's 100% Boal, also white variety. I will be showing the grapes for you to have an idea. And then slightly sweeter, that's a Colheita from 2003. What is a Colheita? 100% a year, 100% the grape. This one is under single cask. And is basically a dessert wine, sweetish, very round. And then we'll be finishing with Cercial 20-year-old. This wine is written down Cercial, but in fact it has a blend of 96% Cercial with 4% Tintanagar. But this Tintanagar is a very old Tintanagar from the 50s. Another thing is we call it Ribeira Real because grapes come from this small place, which is just down here in Câmara Lodge. So, shall we start with the first wine?
Sounds like a plan.
Delighted.
Good. Let me pour the wine because it's still... So, we have, it has, I would say, gold color, kind of greenish, gold greenish. It's still a young wine. Nice, fresh on the nose. I would say also with a bit of dried flower somehow. Citrus. And I believe at the background, we may find a kind of pistachio, kind of dryish. It's nice, fresh, very elegant wine with also these flavors of citrus flavors in here. This wine is 100% Tintanagar, but that's a small place, and normally Ricardo's does this wine in 2 times. So grapes are harvested, half of the place is harvested 1 week before it reaches the full maturation, and then it vinifies separately, and then the other half it harvests when it's a bit more mature. Ricard always prizes acidity. If there is something about Barbeito wine, will be the balance between sugar and acidity. And the idea is really to balance this wine to achieve this nice, it's not that complex, but quite easy even for pairing.
It's got a lovely kind of honeyed kind of element to it. It's like
Also,
a mead in a way. We did a mead tasting a few weeks back, and some of the drier ones. There's definitely some comparisons I wasn't expecting. What do you think, Colin and Katarina? What's your expert opinion?
Yeah, I'd have to say that the honey note is definitely there. Is Tintanagar local to Madeira? Is it indigenous there, Leandro?
yeah, it is local, yes, but we believe it came from Portugal. We used to call it Tintanagar malt. Now we only call it Tintanagar, but in south of Portugal mainland, they call it Tintanagar malt. And we believe it came because Madeira Island was discovered in 1419, and in 1445, they introduced the first grape that was the Malvasia de Candida, that came from Crete, Greece. That's why we call it Malvasia de Candida. And other grapes from Portugal. When they colonized Madeira, they brought what they had in good, I believe. But of course, being Madeira a volcanic island, we have lots of acidity. Madeira is a fortified wine like port, as you all know. So we stop fermentation according from what we will produce. We use a neutral alcohol, 96 volume, a bit stronger than port. The difference basically from port will be, okay, different grapes. We use we use white and red varieties. Then will be the terroir is different, of course. It's not as hot as mainland. In here, potential alcohol will be around an average of 10 and a half, which in Portugal mainland, it achieves 15, 16, and so on.
Okay.
Yes. And another thing will be the aging process. Madeira wine is really an oxidized wine. That's a red grape, but of course, because due to the oxidation, we lose that reddish color and we go into gold, and then can be a bit darker, but not, if it's natural, will be not that dark if it's a young wine, unless you add something to colored wine, which Barbeito is a bit difficult, in fact, to tell. I'm looking at the glass that I poured already here, and it's a bit difficult for me to say this one is drier, sweeter, and so on, because they all have somehow a bit of this gold color.
And it's some great comments coming in. Tara says delicious, very easy to drink, but I'm probably going to say that about all of them. Jared says we like this. Dave says sweet to start, dry to finish. That balance across the tongue is definitely very present. It's what makes it really interesting. Can you tell us some more about the oxidation process and the aging process? What kind of like how are they stored, or is there, you know, what makes that side of Madeira so unique compared to, let's say, sherry, which we did recently, or port?
Yes, so Madeira, in fact, up here where I am now, that's the main warehouse that we have down here, is nice and warm in the summer, but it's quite cold. So it means that in fact, we use somehow barrels on the top of the others, but we have something. Will be the warehouse is natural, is room temperature. That's what I want to say, room temperature. But the roof is covered in zinc, by zinc. Of course, in the summer will be slightly warmer. That's why casks that we have on the top, just next to the roof, what will happen is that the sugar that it has will caramelize faster. But in fact, these warehouses is divided in cooler and a bit warmer place. So we have also a colder place where wines age much slower. So with the heat, it's faster, this aging process.
Oh, fantastic. I don't know about you guys, but we love to hear what everyone has to think about the first one. But my glass is already empty.
Okay. I will show you, just for you to have an idea. Before we go to the next wine, let me see if I can show you the next picture. Are you seeing now?
Yeah, we are indeed.
Okay, so that's our landscape. Madeira has lots of hills, and it's just, this place is straight to the Camarmovos, and you see houses, and also this green, this greenish that you see, those are vineyards, but mostly latadas, pergola system, and is always small plots, which we do all by hand. Is always harvest. It takes long time because it's all done by hand. But there is also another picture, which is latadas, pergola system. That's a Tintanagar grape, and as you see, they almost bending, laying latadas. So vines grow up, and then they have still a space, the place to have some other crops. So in here is not forbidden to irrigate. That's why they can grow some other crops. That's a way for them to help them. Although grapes are quite expensive on the island, just for you to have an idea, Tintanagar, which is one of the less expensive grapes, will cost around 1.20, but Cercial Bastardo over 2.5 because of small quantities. Let me tell you another thing about Bastardo. Madeira Island produces an average of 4 million liters. Almost 80% is from Tintanagar. And most of the vines will be not in Spalier, will be in Latadas. Anything that you would like to ask about?
Colin and Katarina, do you have any ideas? We'd love to know if anyone in the chat has some opinions. That image is extraordinary. Those grapes look, the vines are remarkable. It's very evocative. They're almost like hands clasping down. It's very romantic almost. Well, what? Any questions before we come on to the next wine, Colin or Katarina?
No, I think Leandro covered. Yeah, it does.
Jeff in the chat says, do Barbeito own the vineyards, or are the vines owned by many people?
Okay, in here we have a very small place, but basically these are the source for our white wine. Apart from fortified wines, we started in 2017 doing a white wine. Verdelu, but in fact in that blend has also a bit of Cercial. We want elegance, we want freshness. But yes, we do buy grapes from private families. We work from over 120, 130 farmers, lots of people. Our production will be around 250, 300,000 liters a year. So which is a small quantity regarding that Madeira produces about 4 million.
So we'll come on to the Bastardo. Bastardo. Tell us about this one.
Okay, Bastardo is a red grape. I will show you also the grapes. Again, it has a kind of gold, probably a bit darker than the first, but is about the same age. This one, in fact, is a blend. That's why we call it a blend of wines. We call it três pipas. Três pipas means 3 barrels. So Ricardo selected from 2010, 2009, and 2011. The 2009 was with skin maceration, and the other two direct press. So, of course, doing foot rod will be with a bit more fuller. It's not because of the color, because once Madeira ages, we lose the color. The point is we will have a bit more acidity and fuller body wines with also a bit more potential to keep longer time in the cask. So this wine, normally this wine gives, I'm feeling already almond here, quite nutty, and bastardo, we find somehow more spices. This wine is bastardo and boal that we find spices. I don't know if you are finding some. If you think that because serving wine is a bit too cold, we get a bit less this. But if you swirl the glass, so you may get somehow a bit of this and a bit of smoke, not much, but somehow a bit of that.
I can definitely get the nuttiness, all right. It's quite citrusy and florally as well.
Yes, yes. Floral, you did say floral, yes. Also a bit of clove somehow here, not very intense, but this kind of nutty. And Barbeito wines, in fact, are, we find lots of citrus, nutty, some spices, floral also, not much of that molasses. We find probably some caramel, but not that much.
There's definitely more of those dried fruits, and the cloves is yeah, you really get that on the finish, particularly very much so in contrast to the first one. What do you think, Colin and Katarina? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like the spice to it, like nutmeg, cinnamon, something I'm getting anyway.
And candied orange peel. That's one that I'm getting the most of it.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
And the palate is quite round. Again, spices here, quite spicy somehow. Yeah?
Yeah.
Definitely. I actually get more so the more the second and third sip, the spices kind of come to life a bit more for me personally. Jeff in the chat says lovely apricots and dried fruits. Jared is a very good tasting note. He says delicious. So he's nailed it, I think.
And as I did say, Ricardo prized lots of the acidity, this freshness. And I think that these wines are good for pairing. There are some, I will show you also something that I've done, and probably there are things that will match easily with either first or second. Yes, because the second one, in fact, is I think is a bit fuller body than the first. First was a bit kind of greenish, a bit more thin, but quite interesting to have with something to start with. Even some cheese, that is always good thing, will be the cheese.
Well, I always bring that to all our tastings, metaphorically speaking.
To speak.
Tara says definitely orange peel and apricots. So
Orange peel and apricot. Okay, good. Yes, also these dried. Yes, we find also apricots here. Yeah. If I've done these tastings already, and the next wine, I felt much more the apricot, but we will go there. Would you like to go next wine, and then we can compare? We can always go back and compare the medium, although different grapes.
that sounds like a brilliant plan.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's the 10-year-old Verdelu.
Yes, 10 years old Verdelu. Also bright color, gold color, not very intense color. In here, probably kind of, I felt a bit of apricot, but also a bit earthy. And some cooked fruit, a kind of jam.
There's definitely kind of a cooked and preserved fruit element to it.
There is a very nice complexity. Palate is very, there is a nice acidity, in fact, lots of flavors, and edges are really round. We feel round edges with lots of flavors, still some fruit, kind of jelly fruit, preserved fruit, as you did say. Orange, easily we find the citrus here. If we go back to the first wine, you can see that he already changed a lot. So in fact, in here, it seems to be a bit sweeter than was the first time that we've tried.
Wow, it's totally different. It's completely transformative. As you say, that much sweeter. That Verdejo is a lot more of, for me personally, and personally, I'm no sommelier, but there's a lot more of those greener kind of honeyed notes than that we got in the first one than on that second one.
If we go back to, it's still opening again a bit. It shows something else. Also, it has to do with temperatures as well. Serving too cold is a bit difficult to find fruit, but again, serving too warm, the first impact will be alcohol. That's why for the tasting, I believe 14, 15 degrees is excellent. If we were having these with some dishes, I would bring all of them around 12, 13 degrees. Yes, I would think bringing temperature not too cold, because too cold, we will lose a lot of these, but these aromas and flavors, but around 12 degrees will be quite good to have with a main dish. Why not? Again, the third, still quite fruity, but a kind of cooked fruit, jammy, with orange blossom, but it's quite smooth, very smooth. And although these are not too dry, but it ends quite long. It's not, because of the nice acidity that it has, that balance really the wines, the long is quite, the finish is quite long. What do you think?
Yeah, no, certainly. And we've got some great comments coming into the chat. Chris says the Verdejo reminds me of marmalade. Lovely fruit and a nice bite. My favorite so far. David says peach and poached pear for me on this one. Jeff says, how long do these, I suppose I'll actually come to the other tasting note first. So Tara says, I'm getting some almost mushroomy from it, but that's not the same. And then Jeff's question was, how long would these keep once opened?
You mean once we open the wines, how long?
I don't think he means the tasting that we have here. I mean, let's say we had a bottle of the Verdelu at home. It's about, they're both about 19% alcohol by volume. Am I right? And obviously you said they're aged, oxidized. So would they keep a long time once we'd opened them if we had a full bottle?
Yes. What is good about Madeira wine is really, even in restaurants, they can have for about 1 year. Although we know that will change a bit, but it's not like some other wines. Madeira, once you open, you can still drink this for at least 1 year. It's not because being strong wines, it's because, well, it's also, but mostly because of the oxidation. Wines have been in contact with air, so it's really an oxidized wine. That's why even if we open and is in contact with the air, it's even nice when we need to let it breathe to have more aromas. I would say especially these younger wines, because if it's really a fresqueira, very old wine, this can be kept for longer, for more years. I had a wine that Ricardo brought from his mother house, a bottle from 1795. This bottle was open for more than 13 years, and the wine was still amazing, although we lose a bit, but still quite pleasant for drinking.
Wow, 13 years. That's remarkable. They're almost like pioneers. Tara Gleason says, 1 year, not a hope. As in, it wouldn't last around that long. So that's good. Patricia Carroll says, delicious, rich texture and masses of orange fruit with honey, a little pepper on the finish. Laura says, it's so smooth, made for a summer's evening. Stephen says, it would need to be some size of bottle to last a year around our house. So there you go. I think, maybe a year in a more sophisticated country, but you are giving a tasting in Ireland, Leonardo, so you can't forget that. What do you reckon, Colin and Katarina?
It's my favorite so far.
Lovely, yeah. Very elegant style. I really like it.
And it's still a 10-year-old, so it has the complexity, easy for drink. It's not dry, not too sweet, very round, and plus these nice aromas and flavors. That's good. Okay, they're all different. They're all medium dry. Just for you to have an idea, I have written down here, the first wine has 62 grams of residual sugar, which is, okay, quite a lot, but we have to think that is a Madeira, that the acidity is also quite high. The first 2008, the single harvest 2008, has also 5.96 of acidity. The second wine, which is the Bastardo Três Pipas, sugar about 64 grams, and the acidity is about, is much higher, 692.
You definitely get that, 100%.
10 years old has 71 grams, and the acidity is 654. So even a bit less than and probably you felt that 10-year-old somehow is a bit more balanced, because a bit less acidity, not as high, and even higher in sugar.
No, definitely, and the Bastardo is 49 euros at Celtic. Am I right, Colin and Katarina?
Yep, on the nose.
Yeah, and the 10-year-old is 39.99. So, for something that will last around your house for a year, that's a great investment. If it lasted a year, how much? That's what, less than 50 cents a day, like,
And another thing is the size of the bottle. The two first, 2008 and Bastardo, are 50 centiliters, and 10-year-old is 75. So you have, it can last longer. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put it in it. We'll open it and save it for my grandkids.
Okay. Before we go to other wine, it will be nice to show you grapes. Yes. I will start with the Cercial on the left-hand side, top. Is Cercial. In fact, has a big bunch. It's quite big. Normally, it weighs around 1 kilogram. Cercial grows a bit more in colder places, especially north coast of Madeira, Seixal, and the grapes that we are getting, in fact, come from mostly sea level, 50, 100 meters high, because Madeira can be up to 700 meters high. So that's why, and we will be finding somehow kind of briny saltiness in the last Cercial. We will go there, but this, excuse me, this grape has lots of acidity. Sugar levels are not that high, and especially being from a colder place, we will be dealing with the acidity more than sugar levels. Then we have, and Cercial, sorry, also in very small quantities, really, probably from the white, apart from Terrantege that we have at the bottom, is the less that we produce on the island. A kilogram of Cercial will cost around 2.50. It all depends how you want this grape. So people that sell us, okay, we don't have a contract. We know them, and normally we buy it from the same people. Of course, sometimes, and now probably you are wondering that if we buy grapes, how do we control quality? Well, is their land? We buy grapes, but somehow we go even quite often to the land to check, to help, and even staff from Barbeito go quite often to see how grapes, how is the quality, and to help them as well. Yes. Next grape is Verdelu. Grape Verdelu, we have a bit more than the other four. That's also used to produce white wine. We started white wines or table wines in the beginning of 90s. Was the first rosé, and then because of the demand, we started doing some from Verdelu. Verdelu grows over, you can find types, but it grows a bit better in the south. It's a bit warmer and sugar levels are higher. And especially for a white wine, you need a bit more sugar. For Madeira wine, it's okay because wines will age. Sugar that it has will caramelize, will be totally different wine. Then we go for Boal. Verdelu. This picture seems to be, the bunch seems to be quite big. It's not that big. In fact, is beside to Terrantege is quite small bunch. Boal is bigger, bit sweeter, quite aromatic as Verdelu. Also grows more south coast. But Ricardo always looks for this kind of Verdelu and Boal from São Vicente. He has some friends, some people that work with us that have these in a cooler place, and because of acidity, he always buys this Verdelu and Boal, because Boal being from south, we will have a bit more structure. Somehow the aging, we have more structure. Is also a bit different than Verdelu, but towards that, because Boal is always medium sweet. What we have to be aware is this Cersei Verdelu Boal Malvasia that normally is not written down on the label, that are dry sweeter. So we have to know, if I want a sweet wine, I have to choose either Boal, which is medium sweet, or Malvasia for sweet. Cersei always dry, Verdelu medium dry. The other three can be anything, drier or sweeter. Then we go for Malvasia. Malvasia, the normal, because we have Malvasia de Canda, which was the first grape. It grows only south coast, near to us, which is known as Feijão dos Padres. It's a bit warmer. In fact, there is a cliff there. It's the second biggest cliff, I believe, in Europe. The biggest, I believe, is in Ireland. We have the second biggest cliff. And somehow these grapes are sheltered and exposed a bit more with the sun. But most of the Malvasia come from São Jorge, which is north coast. Then we have a bit of Terrantez. Barbeito, we don't have much. We released recently a 30-year-old, but 54 bottles, I believe, that we sold in 1 week. Terrantez, when is young, is very dry. It needs time. It is a beautiful wine. It will give a beautiful wine, but it needs time. Then let's go for Tintanagar. We had already 2008. Grows everywhere. We have 460 hectares. 80% from the total will be from Tintanagar. It doesn't mean it has less quality. The point is, having lots of this grape will be the grape that will produce the youngest of all, 3 years. If you have a 3-year-old wine and then you have a 10-year-old, there is a huge difference. It's not because of grape, it's because of the aging process. Another grape, Bastardo. This seems to be quite kind of blue. But sometimes we get also kind of blue with white, and somehow Ricardo, either we do this skin contact or not. It all depends what he wants to do. If we press gently, very gentle, will be somehow whitish, white color. Then a bit pressure, pink. If we do foot trot, either robotic as we do have, or bare feet, it will be a bit deeper in color. It's not so easy to work with this grape. That's why the name. Any questions from grapes?
There's a couple coming in. I thought, on a personal note, I thought the biggest cliff was Cliff Richard, the biggest cliff in Europe. So that's interesting. But there's a question from Tara who says, "Is Verdejo VERDELHO the same as Verdejo VERDEJO?"
You mean Verdejo from Spain?
I imagine so.
Yeah.
probably is not the same. Is not the same, but it comes from Portugal, but somehow is similar. What we have in Portugal, I believe that you know that we have lots of grapes. Sometimes it's not really having lots of grapes. We have different names. Let me give you an example. Cercial that we have on the island, they have a Cercial on mainland, which is not written the same way. It's not the same grape. What is the same grape is Esganacão. Is a difficult name. It's a funny name even for a grape, because translating into English is dog struggler. Esganacão for Cercial. Our Boal is the same thing as they have, and they call it Malvasia fina. Our Malvasia is different. Yes, names change, but is not the same as the Verdelu from Spain.
Oh, interesting. Tara Gleason says, call me juvenile, but those Bastardo grapes look like they'd beat you up. I must say, I certainly wouldn't want them to fall on my head if I was walking through a vineyard. They look like quite the grapes, like. Yeah. And Chris says, Madeira always makes me crave olives. Something about the finish is briny to me, but in a good way. So yeah, no, that's all our comments so far. So keep them rolling in. There was also a comment about the prices. So the ones we've had so far, just so we're all on the same page. The single harvest from Celtic is $28.50, and the Barstado is $49, and the Verdelu 10-year-old is $39.99.
Shall we move to Boal 10 years?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Okay. What I will show you is that my rand on the screen is left, but my rand, my right hand is Boal and left is Verdelu, and they just look about the same color, but normally is a bit different. In fact, we associate dry, medium dry to a pale color, dark color, sweet, medium sweet. Not from Vinhos Barbeito. That's why it's sometimes a bit difficult just to get no wines, because they are just about the same color. One of the reasons is, well, the first reason is, let me tell you, that is really the natural color. And sometimes we may get a Boal slightly darker color than Cercial or Verdelu. It has to do with where wines are kept, if it's in a warmer place or in a cooler place. Warmer place will give you, it will be a bit faster. So let's, quite fresh still, a bit of pine. I'm feeling fresh pine, some figs, bit of walnuts. It's quite aromatic. It has a bit also, a bit more caramel than what we didn't have this caramel, slightly caramel here. But again, always this freshness that comes forward. Well, the palate is quite smooth, sweet, but not very sweet. I would say it's nice balance, and quite round. also fruity, lots of fruit flavors in here, but very elegant, quite long, and with this nice freshness.
It's definitely got a lovely kind of syrupiness to it. Yeah, no, it's got a gorgeous kind of fruity bite on the end. It's really, really interesting. What do you reckon, Colin and Katarina?
There was a comment just there that said it was like Christmas cake. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really well balanced, and I get the really nice kind of mixed spice on the end, like on the finish. There's like cinnamon and nutmeg.
Okay.
Oh,
The Boal, in fact, give always this spicy somehow character. Yeah, Boal. But being a medium sweet, I don't think that is really that sweetish. That is quite pleasant, quite fresh. I will be serving this wine around 13, 14 degrees. Around. Sometimes it's better, as I did say, serve slightly chilled, and then if it's too cold, we wait for a while, and then temperature will rise. Especially here where I am, is getting warmer, because like this you get to know all of these aromas and the flavor as well.
It's a lovely one to have with a, with a kind of wintry dessert. Something that's kind of dark fruits heavy, kind of even with the Christmas cake. I can definitely imagine having one around, when you stock up pre-Christmas with loads of alcohol, and you think in your head, I'm going to have that on Christmas Day, but you're drunk and asleep at that point, so you end up having it on Stephen's Day. But it's definitely one of those ones you'd have around the house at that time. Jeff says it has a citrus, bit of citrus to it, and a lovely balance. Balance seems to be the key word that keeps coming up. The other comment there is a lovely balance. Don't think Christmas cake for Bull, as it seems lighter and more citrus and nut. The juice adds balance. The juicy acid, balances it beautifully. So there the comments keep them coming in.
Okay, so let's go back here. I want to show you our warehouse. We already spoke about this, but it's very important for people to know how it works. We call it container. What is a container? It's room temperature. You see that we use, these are quite old barrels. We use French, but the importance here is not being Portuguese, oak, French, American. What is most important is being old barrels, because we need oxidation. That's the reason to have old barrels, because keeping a wine in a new barrel, if it's 10 years, we will have lots of oak. Of course, you find some oak in these wines that we just tried, but not that intense oak. Is light oak, and is because of old barrels. Have a look here. The roof is of zinc, and in zinc is much warmer. So it means the casks that we have on the top are more exposed to the heat. This aging will be faster. The wine still has this sugar, and this sugar caramelizes. What happens to Madeira is that it has water, the water evaporates, and we have concentration. At the edges, I don't know if you can see, but at the edges we have concrete. Wines at the bottom, it doesn't mean older or younger. At Vinhos Barbeito, we mix. Ricardo likes to mix all of these. He says, no worries, I put this one here, there. It keeps tasting these wines. We do these tastings. Well, as it's not here at the moment, I've been tasting every day 12, 20 wines plus other wines that I have to know the wines. But is his job. I like to do it, but is his job to get to know wines. If he decides to have a wine on the top, which is a bit warmer, so it means that it needs to be either faster aging, or the body probably is a bit thin. He wants to have a bit more fuller body, or the opposite way. If he has a wine at the bottom, cooler places, or at the edges of the building that is concrete, much colder. So this aging process in colder places are much slower. So we have less oxidation, less concentration, but let me tell you this, wines are very elegant. Sometimes, because a 10-year-old is an average, we need a characteristic of 10 years. So before we bottle, a sample of these wines will be taken to Madeira Wine Institute to be approved. But they want it, we need a characteristic of 10 years. It means that, just to let you know, that if we have a wine for even 10 years in a colder place, probably it hasn't got the characteristic of 10. And sometimes we need to use wines that are over 10 in the blend, in the lot, because we know that it's over 10 years, but it hasn't got the characteristic. Very elegant wines, but we need a bit more. That's why some of these 10 years are, we do have, by law is an average, but most of the times wines have more minimum 10 years and over. We have 3 different warehouses with different temperatures. Okay, we keep, if we need to, it's a bit difficult. If we want to move a barrel from one place to the other, it's a bit difficult, especially if it's from the bottom. What we do is pumping the wine from one place to the other and replace with another wine. Okay, what we have to be probably aware is that, imagine that we filled, or we need to move a wine, a very old wine, I would say 78, which we have behind these front barrels. If we need to fill this 78, what we will do is probably fill it with something towards that, because it always, I'm sorry.
No problem. We've got a couple of comments there about how much the boil is, or it's 40 euros, it's 39.99, and I'll put a link to it there in the chat. Someone said they can't find it on the website, so that's that in there. I suppose it's really interesting. I'm absolutely fascinated by the maturation process. But I know there's at least a couple of people on the chat wondering about the combination with whiskey. I know there was a absolutely fantastic 16-year-old single malt a few years back from the Tintanagar here that did it was a Madeira finish, and it's absolutely one of my favorites in recent years. And we had a fabulous one from Jack Ryan that we had on a whiskey tasting recently, about 2 weeks ago. For anyone, I'm sure there's a few people on the chat who are also on that tasting. Do you have any relationships with whiskey distilleries, or do you speak much about about Madeira being used in maturation of either Scotch or Irish whiskey?
Well, it's something that we all fight to have these old barrels, because we really need. But There is another warehouse on the top, which we are seasoning barrels, and then I believe it will be 2 islands to age then whiskies. Well, we have lots of people asking for that, but really we need these older barrels. What we are doing is really new barrels. What we are doing is seasoning with the youngest of all. Madeira wine, the youngest are 3 years. Yes, we don't sell less than 3 years old. But these wines have a different way of aging. I believe that you've heard that Madeira wine is heated. Somehow it's true, but it will work only for the 3-year-old wine. We have some stainless steel tanks that we call estufas, where an estufa, stainless steel tank, it has somehow a jacket with very hot water that heats wines for 3 months in a very high temperature. It achieves 47, 50 degrees. The idea of estufaging or heating process is really to speed the aging. 5, 10 and older will be Canteiro, the place that you are seeing now. But I just mentioned that because what we are doing is the wines that normally, these younger wines, will not go, or just a bit somehow in the lot we can use a wine that was over 5 years in the cask, but most of it will be from estufaging, from the heating process. The point is that as we want to season barrels, the new barrels, then to ship that, I believe is to Ireland, we are doing with what was heated. So it has been heated a bit time in stainless steel tank and seasoning with first young wine. Then we will, because we cannot keep a 3-year-old wine over 4 or 5 months in the cask. Otherwise, the wine will be too oaky, flavor, aromas. We will then empty that and refill with a bit older. And so on, we will do that for at least a couple of years. And then that's what we do for seasoning barrels, and then for you to age some whiskies.
No, that's fantastic. I know that there's a couple of comments in there. Geraldine says, decent whiskey do a Madeira cask. It's extremely good. And Stephen says, Celtic cask Cahir, which is our own whiskey, says, was matured in Barbeito casks. He thinks it was released around 2012, 2013. Great year for football. Those were Chelsea won the Champions League in 2012. Is it true that some Madeira producers mature Madeira out in the open, outside the warehouses, to go for those? They want those temperature fluctuations to I suppose affect the oxidation. Is this common, or?
Yeah, it's common. It's common because Madeira wine, when we think about Madeira wine, is really a different way of doing. But Madeira is really unique. It suffers. It's okay with a bit of heat. In fact, sometimes we live outside, not so long, for a while. Some wines. Because during the day it's quite warm, but during the night the temperature drops. We are 600 meters high and it gets cold. The idea is also decanting the wine. And then instead, we do that quite often, not for so long, but we do quite often. Instead, filtering the wines. So the more you filter, the more you take something from the wine. The idea is for it to decant naturally, and then the clean parts will be taken to barrels. We do to refresh wines as well. Yes, we do. It's common to do that.
No, that's fascinating. That's something that I only recently learned about Madeira, and I wouldn't, it's so different than how you would expect other fortified wines from Italy or Spain or from the mainland of Portugal to be matured. It's wonderful, all part of the journey, learning more about this product. I suppose we'll come on to the next one, will we?
Yes. So let's do 2003 Malvasia. That is also a culator. Culator means harvest. That's a culator, 100% year. This is 100% the grape, under single cask. Another thing there, as I'm talking about casks, I believe that you've seen that we have the name of the grape, single cask, plus there is a number of the cask, plus 2 letters or 1 letter. These 2 letters or a letter means different warehouses. Sometimes why 2 letters? Because at the beginning was in one warehouse, then it was transferred to another warehouse. So about 2003, much sweet aromas in here, probably, although ripe citrus, but a bit more honey, floral, still nice and fresh, kind of toffee, caramel, light caramel.
There is that toffee like caramel is almost like a Turkish delight type of guillotine elements just in there as well. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it's really interesting. Those
Kind of candied fruit as well.
Yeah. I suppose that candied fruit is what would be evoking that for me. Laura says lots of dried fruits. Chris says golden syrup. All fantastic and I think very good tasting notes.
And a bit of raisins as well. Raisin. The palate is sweet. Yes, it's a sweet wine. Not that sweet. Has still this nice acidity for balancing the wine. If there is something for Christmas time, I believe this wine, your Christmas pudding will go well with this, or this wine will go well with your Christmas pudding.
No, definitely. That note tasted already from Chris, the golden syrup. I really got that on the tongue. Tara Gleason says delicious dessert in a glass. Colin and Katarina, we'll cut to you on the sideline for your expert opinion.
It's the minerality and the acidity that balance it for me. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's delicious. I do get a lot of spice again, but yeah, it's kind of Christmas pudding. Yeah, it's delicious. What would you pair with this, Leandro?
I will, the next, let me show you, because I have all wines, and before the last wine, I want to show you something that we can pair with Madeira wine. I believe is the next picture. Okay, we can go, let me check, I know that I will do this, but we can, as we are in this wine. Okay, Malvasia 2003 Culator. So, can be with fresh fruit, with no doubts. Biscuits, something easy that you are doing. You have the wine, you didn't get much, you didn't know that you were trying the wine, but you had some biscuits. Why not? Again, Christmas pudding. Yeah, foie gras. I believe if you like foie gras or a pate, something like this, why not? That's quite pleasant because of the acidity that will clean the palate. It will not be, it will be nice, fresh still. creme brulee, cheese. I put cheesecake. Can be any fruit cake. Almond cake, I believe, will match well with this wine. Something almond, dried fruits, and cheese. Cheese is something that we have always at home, and quite easy. And not forgetting chocolates. I believe also there is another thing that will match with chocolates. But I'm sure that you at home, you do, I believe you do, trifle or no?
Trifle, yeah. We will.
Okay, that is something that we don't do this in here, but I believe something, lots of desserts will match with these. But having fresh fruit, I put fresh strawberries, but pineapple, I would have also over strawberries, fresh strawberries, and Madeira over the strawberries. But you can do also, if you melt chocolate, probably if you dip chocolate, if you dip strawberry into chocolate, can be nice also. There are lots of things that, again, being a sweet wine, I don't mind to have this wine also at the beginning. Let's say that I like a bit sweeter wines. We don't have to follow rules that say dry, medium, dry is as an aperitif, sweet, medium, sweet for dessert. Normally it will be like this, but if I like sweet, I don't like dry wines, well, I will not have a Madeira as an aperitif. Why not? So something that will go quite well. Probably what I would do as an aperitif is bringing temperature down. So serving around, I like this wine, especially in the summer, from the fridge. I know it's cold, I know I will not take as much, but in terms of palate, it's quite pleasant, and it will become again a bit less sweet. So we don't feel that really sweet. It's somehow a bit fresh.
I never pegged you as an anarchist, Leonardo. Having this as an aperitif, that's crazy. That's you could be sanctioned for that. No, yeah, I think it's a great suggestion. And I see foie gras and creme brulee on the list there. I had a foie gras flavored creme brulee once a few years back in France, and I think if I was to pair this with that, I might just drop down dead in the spot, having completed life. That would be it. Peaked. Tara Gleason says, exactly, Leonardo, I agree. This would be great chilled with cheese. So they're all, I think we're all starving after that very eloquent pairing there.
Sometimes people ask me, how do I drink these wines? I do say always, anytime. I can have it as an aperitif with the main dish, because we will see that. Let's go, I'm sorry, but I have to do, let's go to the first wine, 2008. That's what we had. Behind there is the Tintanagar, and I believe that some kind of olives, smoked fish. I would have also these with braised pork belly, with a bit of fat, something here, with this nice acidity. I know that sometimes it's not the normal, but why not? I have also mushrooms with a bit of garlic. I know garlic is always a bit difficult with wines, but we can try. Prawns, mussels, even fresh. We do have, I don't know, we call it lapas, is limpids. The shellfish that normally we get that from rocks, salty, will be an amazing with these drier wines. Game dishes, why not? It all depends how you do as well. Cheese. Of course, that is medium dry. And if I'll go back, it's now is an amazing, lots of flavor, aromas, just getting from the glass. So, may I go, or would you like to have something from here?
No, I think that's fantastic. I think we're building up nicely to the next one. Obviously, guys, we want to, as we're reaching towards the end now, we want to keep the questions coming in. David also says, thinking of foie gras and li shi, a dish I can really see working with this. Chris says, I wish more of Dublin's tapas restaurants talk to these wines, and I'm pretty sure Ali Alpine does as well. So yeah, no, it's totally agreeable. I think that's. Well, often with when you go places, when you start getting into fortified wines and you have dishes and you're thinking, oh, this would go lovely with a good port or a good Madeira, and then their wine menu often lets the food down. So that's a really good point from Chris.
Again, with this wine, because as it is medium dry, can be, because there are lots of things, I just put half, but can be caramelized vegetables, even either the first, second, 10 years. This is all for the three of them. There are lots of things that a quiche, tuna salad, why not sushi, sashimi? Probably will match. Not probably, I've tried, I like it, but I know sometimes a bit stronger, but why not try with something that we like and we like the wine. So the idea is you to try to see what you like most. 10 years old, I would have, even with grilled duck, as with a bit of orange sauce here, that will because of the wine, the complexity, and this kind of marmalade that you did say that we find, why not having something sweetish here, consommé, dried fruits. I don't want to forget dried fruits. Sometimes before lunch or dinner, bit of dried fruits, a glass of Madeira, and again some cheese. Let's go for the next one. Bual. Bual is a bit more full body wine. I would have with chestnut soup, something a bit strong as well. But I put also grilled calf's liver, something grilled meaty, foie gras again, because either this or the 2003, the Swedish wine, will match perfectly with these. Butter biscuits, blue cheese, why not? With something blue cheese, but will match with lots of cheese.
Going back to the comment about Dublin's restaurants, Ali says Esso is constantly stocked a couple of these wines. Great food too. It definitely is. I ate there once on Ali's recommendation, and it was absolutely out of this world. It's a fantastic little eatery. Well, not little eatery, lovely. It's a restaurant, obviously, around not too far from Stephen's Green. So yeah, worth checking out if anyone's listening in who hasn't.
Sorry.
Tara Gleason says, lads, our drink is well gone. Can I have a top up? I suppose we should come on to will we start having a sip of the 20-year-olds? Because I know my glass has been empty for a long time.
Exactly that. So let's move to 20-year-old Cersei. As I did say, was my last wine. Normally, if it was dry, I would have at the beginning if they were about the same age. But this wine has more complexity. So that's why I'm having for last. Here, that's a picture. And I have as an aperitif, also as at the end of the meal. Easily, I can have this wine at the end of the meal instead of cognac brandy, because it's dryish but nice, full body, quite pleasant as well. So this wine, I'm feeling here a bit of Madeira is a volcanic island, and a kind of rocky, some rocks, something volcanic, something about soil, rocks, but also smoke, a bit of dried fruit, with no doubt. Can be also a bit of citric and saltiness. I felt and I feel kind of briny. That's the word that you say, briny.
Yeah.
And dried fruits. What else I have here? And smoky. It's quite smoked. A bit of oak as well. So this one is probably the one that has, not probably, is the one that has more oak. This Cercial is 96% of Cercial with 4% of Tintanagar from the 50s. That's why we feel that it has old wine here. Quite long, dryish, again, salty. I don't know if you feel this saltiness here, it's quite present, but somehow it's quite elegant. It's quite long, finish, nice, balanced.
Absolutely stunning. There's some wonderful comments coming in. Norris has never had minerality on the nose before. Wow. Taurus is very complex, a lot going on. There is this smoke, tobacco, dare I say, turf fire. It's really, really, really complex. It's quite interesting. I was actually at a wonderful event on Saturday where we were smoking venison on this kind of wood chipping. And from a distance, as you walk towards the meat being smoked by that lovely kind of fresh wood, it's got those notes coming through, and it's really, really different. It's really interesting. Colin and Katarina, what do you make of it?
Delicious. It's very salty. Yeah, it's
Yes, salinity. I really get that on the.
and
on
it's
the
a
palate.
lot going on. Like there's layers of flavor. You get this nice dried fruit first, then you get the saltiness. Yeah, very interesting.
And I was going to say something, and I believe this wine can be nice with some cheese. This wine will match perfectly with cheese. I put it only aperitif and digestive, something aperitif or at the end, but can be with a very nice cheese here. It will match well.
Hedging your bets there, saying it could be aperitif or digestive or digestive. No, it's really great. We've got some more wonderful comments coming in. Alan says the cereal grape related to the dry white Cercileone grape. Sorry, my dyslexia coming up. Tara says could definitely match them all with cheese. David says all these fruit pairings made me hungry. Working really well with halloumi with sweet onion glaze for me currently. So there you go. And Stephen says I've never had anything with so much acidity but also dry. Would be tremendous with fruit. So it's a massive hit and an absolute steal at Celtic Whiskey. I believe 134. Yeah, I mean 134.99. I'm sure if you went in, Colin and Katarina, they give it you for 130. Yeah. So we, as long as you're buying something else as well, of course, with it. And no, it's incredible. Really, really, really wonderful way to bookend the tasting.
Yes. I didn't say, I don't know, just for you to have an idea, did I tell you that about sugar levels of 2003? Probably not. 93 grams and the acidity 6.66. This last, the Cercial, has about 44 grams of residual sugar and the acidity 7.66. So we need somehow a bit of sugar. Otherwise, wine will be almost undrinkable or a bit unbalanced. The idea is really to have this balance. and that's quite pleasant for drinking. I love this wine. Is my favorite from, but I love them all. But of course, being an old wine is the complexity of the wine. But let me tell you that, please, you have my email. Anybody that would like to visit us, if they come to Madeira, just visit us and we will do a nice tasting, also a tour at the winery.
That's yeah, no, we will definitely we'll see in Madeira once everything lifted. Lifts. I'm going to try and attempt Alan's question there that I butchered when I was reading through the tasting notes. He's saying, is the Cercial grape related to the dry white Cercial grape, which I'm actually not familiar with. So I'm not sure if you are, Leonardo, or if Colin or Katarina are.
Yes, it's always is related with the older Cercial. Yes. Yeah. It has been like this, maintaining. At the moment, we have lots of the Tintanagar, because somehow, the phylloxera struck Madeira as well, not only other countries, Madeira, that we lost most of the not reddish. We had some, but they didn't care much about the red. There is another grape that at the beginning we had a lot pre-phylloxera, the Verdelu, and people didn't want Verdelu. They had, but oh no Verdelu. At the moment, everybody wants Verdelu. Yes, because we do amazing wines. But let me tell you that they're all different. They produce different wines, but they all good. It all depends when I'm having a dry wine, a medium dry, a medium sweet, or sweet.
Fantastic. There's a few more questions coming in. The Boyle 10-year-old, what was the acidity and sugar levels for that?
The Verdelu, there is 71 grams and 6.50 acidity. The Boal is always a bit more, a bit sweeter, so sugar grams are a bit higher as well. 90 grams, and the acidity 659 is even more acidic than Verdelu. The point is, you don't find as the Verdelu because the sugar levels are higher. In here, always this balance.
And Chris says, my favorite Madeira when I lived in the US was the rare wine company Savannah Verdejo, or Savannah, which I think was made by Barbeito, but is not distributed in Europe. Can Leonardo recommend a wine from your lineup as a substitute? Oh, that's it. You won, Chris.
I'm here. Yes, that's the one. Sorry, that's the one. That's Savannah. We do these wines especially for the USA market. Not only for them, we do as well for Belgium, we do to Japan, to United Kingdom. Always, they are not different, but we don't have the same wines as these, especially these. That's a 10-year-old wine, but with a bit of all the wines. So that is a blend that is 100% Verdelu. The base will be a 10-year-old with mixing with old wines, and of course, color is much deep in color as well. We don't have, to be honest, we don't have any similar. Probably we do. We do have this wine, which is 100% Tintanagar, and it's similar to that.
You're teasing us by pouring it there, like this is cruel.
You don't have to try. That is similar to this, even in color, because of old wines that in the blend. But you only find, even if you come to Madeira, you will be able to try, but you are not able to buy because we only sell this in USA. That's only for that market.
Brilliant. No, thank you. Mary says, what's the price of the Malvasa 2003? That's €46, I believe. Am I right, Colin and Katarina?
Yeah, that's on 46, yeah.
David says, thanks for tonight. All great. Always great to get the passionate information from someone like Leonardo. And I totally agree. It's been a really, really informative and fantastic night. Before we start wrapping up, Colin and Katarina, do you have anything live from the scene in Dublin? Anything you'd like to ask or any thoughts on tonight's tasting?
No, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Leonardo.
Yeah, very informative.
Brilliant.
Really great night. And yeah, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
That was really a pleasure having you all. I know that there are more people. I don't see them all because of probably I could have all them here. But I want to thank you for this moment. Well, that's the first time that I'm doing by Zoom, but I do this every day, these tastings every day, 5-6 times a day. So I know quite well Barbeito because I work here and I do love Barbeito. But I hope you love Barbeito as well.
Well, I for one definitely love tonight. And I can see from the comments coming in there that a lot of people did too. So Tara liked it so much, all she can say is dry. So it's brilliant. No, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been a wonderful experience. As always, if you can get any questions that either I missed or that come to you in the middle of the night, pass them on and to the email you got the Zoom link from, and we'll forward them on to Leonardo and we'll get them answered. It's been really, really informative. Wonderful tasting. Absolutely something a bit different from what when we started doing these as whiskey back in August. We've had mezcal, tequila, calvados, cognac. We've done a load of different things, and bringing the fortified wines in has really, really worked a treat, I think, and it's been brilliant. So, and obviously the star of the show has got to be that 20-year-old for me. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best, and please do visit us anytime. Just let us know for us to do. It doesn't mean we don't do special for everybody. Yes, we do. It's always special. There are some treats.
well, definitely. I'm going to start lobbying Ryanair to do a direct flight from Farn 4 to Madeira. That's my plan. So thank you very much, Leonardo and Colin.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Take care.
All the
Bye.
best.